Third Age Reforged. My name is Cannon Fodder, and we are trying something a bit different today through feedback from the YouTube website. There's been some concerns about the quality in terms of graphics of the videos. I'm sure there's also issues in terms of the quality of my commentating, but we are trying a new capture system. And for those who are on Twitch have probably seen this jump up and down several times, but for those on the YouTube, you'll have the finished product, so to speak. Hopefully this will go well for everybody, and hopefully for those watching this, the quality will be slightly higher. It will never be as good as a fully rendered video from the recording, just because of the nature of the beast, but we are looking into ways to make improvements and try and resolve this for you as best we can. And I'm hoping, since we don't have hundreds of thousands of trees in this one this time, it might work out slightly better. Today we have a replay sent in kindly by the community by Monkey, and he's playing Arnor with the siege of the Black Gate. Siege battle was a sort of a popular demand, and he's going to be taking on the forces of Mordor, which will be led by Ironside, another member of the community. So thank you very much to them both. Just going to quickly run through the compositions of the forces. So we've got the Dynadine Steel Bowmen here. We've got men-at-arms, several units alongside with pikemen, some battle-ready Dynadine, bodyguards, some more men-at-arms, some more men-at-arms. We've got some Dynadine Wardens with some militia for arrow fodder, some more men-at-arms, Dynadine Wardens, Dynadine Rangers that did stealth, more men-at-arms, dismounted Dynadine, and some pikemen. So, relatively good strong force coming in from Arnor, with the militia there just as the fodder. Moving over now to Mordor, just through the Black Gate, we see that he has some Temple Guard, 2 units of Númenórean Shadow Guard, and the Temple Guard just on the flanks there. We also have a number of Orc bands, so he's bringing in some cheaper forces just to hold the main gate. Some Halberds, supported by some heavy infantry Uruks, some more Halberds, Mordor Chosen, Orlok High, Sauron's Will, more Morgul Chosen, so 3 forces of those guys, some Temple Inquisitors, and some Númenórean Shield Guard. It looks also like he's got a catapult, which is going to be extremely useful for firing into these choke points. And lastly, he's got his bodyguard with some Nazgul. For those who haven't seen the Shield Guard, I always quite like the shoulder pads on these guys. It reminds me of something like Sephiroth would wear in Final Fantasy VII, for those that can see this on the video. And always wonderful is to have the Nazgul. Fantastic unit. Can get swamped though, just because there's so few of them. Can end up in stun locked positions. And what we're going to do is we're going to get into the action and move it up to full speed. As you can hear them all cheering. Really, I think what's going to happen here is it's going to depend on how many units they can get on the way to the Black Gate, and really if they can get that catapult working. What is interesting is neither side have any cavalry. I'm not too surprised by that. It's quite difficult to get cavalry working in the siege position like this. And as the fire arrows come in, I'm not quite sure what the fire arrows are going to do. I don't think they're going to break right now. I think I'll probably stick with standard shot. I can kind of understand why the catapult's quite far back. I don't think he'd be able to get the catapult arc he wants over the building, and therefore is more likely to kill his own units. But I think it'll become really useful when they get to this choke location. For those that haven't seen this map before, what you're going to see is they're actually going to try and make it through these sort of small gates, these sort of miniature portcullises, rather than through the main entrance. I always found the Black Gate interesting, as it was originally seemingly built to try and keep the forces of Mordor on the inside. Thus, if anyone's played the Shadow of Mordor game, you'll see the Black Gate Rangers, which the Rangers of the Black Gate, which I always found fascinating and interesting stylization and concept. As you can see from the perspective of the Shadow Guard Númenóreans, they've got quite a good shot going in. I don't think that they're going to struggle too much. As you can see now, actually, Monkey is moving himself into loose formation. However, what I would say is that for all of the shots coming in, not a great deal of losses. And I think that if I was Monkey right now, I mean, you'd be relatively comfortable with the losses that you're taking so far in this initial push. Everything else relatively safe, kept out the back. I think what's going to be important though is if they can hold these upper levels using the terrain, or in this case the Black Gate, to shoot down upon Arnor as they flood through, shoot them in the back really. if they could try and make some sort of U-shape here, they could try and bring them in and use this as a sort of a death sort of zone, and with the catapult behind, could keep them locked in here quite heavily. As long as they can defend these side areas where Arnor could go up and take out the archers. So you can see here that they're just going to pour in. It looks like for the most part, however, they've got sort of a sort of mirrored force. So I imagine that he'll be sending them in at the same time. Mordor itself seems to be taking a bit more of a sort of wave defense position. They may move up more forces as they go, but actually, since the way that they've set themselves up, it looks like they might be looking to try and hold these locations further back. I'm not necessarily sure the wave formation will work as well, but then having said that, with the catapult there, the wave formation and defense will help them out, because it means they're less likely to kill their own units. And that's partly possibly the reason he's got the Orc Band here. So when he does start firing the catapult, if he does kill any of his own units, they're going to be Orc Bands, so they're going to be utter trash, whereas he can possibly kill some more valuable units by firing into that location. You can see here the gates have now started to get knocked down. You can see that the men-at-arms have got a few more hits in early on, and the militia is going to take a little longer to break through, but I think ultimately it's going to make not much difference as more and more arrows continue to come in. But again, they're not getting that many kills, and I think for what is ultimately a bit of a sacrificial lamb of a unit, they're not doing too badly, even the militia. In terms of what will happen when they break through, I mean, Mordor definitely have the numbers, but at least I think that they're going to probably lose this zone in the long run. I mean, almost certainly, just because of what they're facing. I think that the militia and the Orc Band are probably slightly closer. Interestingly enough, he has got the halberds on this side, even though this is the sort of militia side, and then on this side he's just got a second Orc Band, even though this is the men-at-arms. But we'll see if that pays off, as the first sort of gate now crumbles, and if you saw behind there in the background, Monkey is moving up some additional forces of his mirror units, the Wardens there. Coming up in shield formation, although ironically slightly slower than his men-at-arms, as the second door now breaks down. Nothing wrong necessarily in moving shield formation if they are being shot at. They're an expensive unit, and I probably would target them if I had the option to. It does tire out units though, moving them like this, and they are a little bit blobby, so if you can't get the men-at-arms past his Dinnerdyne Wardens, you could unnecessarily take some extra kills there. As he does start now piling through into the first wave, as you can see the Orc Band now looking to swamp them and see what they can do in terms of getting rid of some of these men-at-arms. Here that the men-at-arms are struggling a little bit to get through here, but I don't think it'll take them too long. You can see that already the Orc Band believe that they are going to lose, even though they've got quite a good formation, relatively speaking. I reckon they're probably having a little bit more luck on this side, as you can see here. Yeah, the poor militia are struggling. It'll be interesting to see whether they actually break from losses, but the Orc Band are holding relatively well. I do think that this is possibly, like I said, the consideration of maybe the halberds would have been better on this side and the Orc Band on the other, and I probably would have switched them over. Right now, he still wouldn't really be able to get much of an angle here with his archers, so they are still firing into this centre, although what it is going to do is it's going to force Monkey to start forcing those units in. Now, what Ironside could have done is maybe the V defensive position. For those that haven't seen it before, you can set yourselves up, which allows them in slightly, but still reduces the number of units that can fight against you, but increases the number of forces that you can fight against them. It also allows them a little bit further in through the choke point to get that catapult moving and firing. And if they can fire at the top of the unit heads, it gives them sort of, I guess, less chance that they're going to hit their own units because they're giving more of an open location. Plus it would allow his archers to turn around and start shooting. But for whatever reason he's looking to hold them here, which is not necessarily a bad idea, especially since he's got his cheaper units. He's just trying to wear them out and tire them out as he goes. You can see he is going to start bringing up some more of his more standard infantry here. Again, he's kind of positioning them 1, 2, 3. I think if I was positioning them, I'd maybe see about moving them onto the flanks again, setting up this V formation. They're going to push through, they're going to continue to push through, but what's going to happen is the line is going to get weakest on the sides, and he needs to use that to get a flanking attack on, but if he keeps facing them like this, then that's not going to pay off for him. Now, it's possible, however, that it isn't the way he's going to do, he's just position them there to stand there for a second. As you can see here that the men-at-arms are making a relatively good pathway through there, and actually the militia is still holding. Um, 62 of them. I had thought that they might struggle, but they do now seem to think that they're going to be victorious with the support that they've got. As you can see, pikemen coming forward. Now this is the target that I would be going for with my archers. This is a valuable unit, very good for choke points. However, no shield, and the armor, although good, isn't going to stop some of his more elite archers. This is where I would be facing my skirmish units right now, trying to drop as many as possible. But he doesn't seem to be doing that. These guys have seemingly gone through relatively almost unmolested as they start to come forward. I'm not quite sure what his archers are shooting at, if they're shooting at all. And actually, the Temple Guard have already got their swords out. As for the Númenórean Shadow Guard, they still seem to be firing, but they seem to be having struggling with the angle they've got. I don't know whether it's just because of the way the wall is. Yeah, they're trying to shoot into the blob, which isn't a bad idea, but it's meaning they're going to have to arc their shots up really high up and then down into the blob. Again, not a bad strategy. You want to try and kill the blob, but my concern is that actually he'd be better using his catapult here to fire, and if he moved his units to the side slightly and really go for that. I mean, that's hundreds of units in there, which one catapult shot could break those and win in a day almost to begin with. I kind of feel that Monkey has perhaps over-committed into the break point, but we'll see if it pays off. Similar thing here, he's forced in sort of by sheer numbers, pushing them back. And I'd be terrified of this catapult right now if it was firing. However, it doesn't seem to be. He doesn't want to use it just yet. Maybe he has different plans for it, but I think you're not going to get much better than the opportunity he's seeing here. And actually what you've seen now is that Monkey has moved his forward, his units, and again, this would be something I would see as a great opportunity for my skirmish line. He's basically just positioned himself here, and I think he's probably in range. Now, don't quote me on it, but I think he's probably pretty close. This would be a fantastic sort of for my my Shadow Guard and my Temple Inquisitors, but again, I'm not entirely sure whether they've pulled out the swords already. I guess they must be out of ammunition, but it does seem like the Temple Guard have run out of ammunition quite early in the battle. It didn't feel like they'd fired too much. But they are starting to make headway through. They are starting to push their way in. They may want to consider about moving up some of their more elite forces. It's possible they might want to send their Olok High in, especially while they've still got the support of the infantry to help them. But again, this is prime location for catapult shots, and I'm not quite sure why he's not making the most of that. He is starting to move his catapult now. I wonder if he's going to just try and reposition it to get a shot. Maybe it's having trouble. Although, actually, having said that, it looks like he's trying to withdraw some of his forces. So maybe what he's hoping to do is bring them a bit more in if they're going to push hard, and then try and soak them up here. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. I think that his best chances here, while he's still fighting trash units. But you can see now he is starting to push through. He should really consider about maybe taking these heavy infantry and hitting the flanks now, while they become more and more exposed. Otherwise, if I was Arnor, I'd use this opportunity to send one of my units through, up, and in to take on these archers here and clear them off the walls before they do any more damage. As Monkey now starts to bring in the main force of his units, and he's going to send his battle-ready Dunedain in first. And I don't blame him. Right now, he doesn't seem to be taking much in the way of skirmish arrows, as they seem to be focused elsewhere, so he's might as well move his units up. You can see now that the push is very strong. It is working its way in, and the pikes are starting to poke them out the way and allow his troops to move forward. I do think that we don't see it very often, but I do think combined battle lines can sometimes work quite well. The idea of merging two units, something like a spearman, which is good at stun locking units and pushing some of them back, and something with some raw killing power can work quite well. So when these sort of dismounted Dunedains come in, it might work out for him. He's sending his Temple Guard now in for a flanking attack. I can only assume that they must be out of ammunition as they come in for an attack on the side. Possibly if they've been out of ammunition for a while, he could have done this a little sooner, but maybe he just wanted them to come in with and spread themselves a little bit thinner. But they are looking like they're going to do that. And they have done it now, I think, on the other side, have they? If they haven't, they will be shortly. Yep, here they come. So they are mirroring that option. They are bringing these units down, which might be useful. They do need to try and defend these flanks from their Númenóreans, who do still have ammunition from being caught out. But more and more forces pushing in now, and I really want to see this catapult fire. He's moved it all the way back now to his town centre, and it's just not loading up. I don't know what he has planned. Maybe we'll see further in. But Ironside, this is a gift. This is. If you could have, I mean, rather than wheeling your catapult back, I would have wheeled my catapult up, get it right in the face, and fire straight down through there. Like, really just kind of punish Monkey for pushing his units in so hard. As it, you know, these cheaper units are holding it, but they aren't going to win by no means, and they will break soon. And Arnor will get released, and will be able to start sort of working their way into Mordor's lines. I think that Mordor is being a little passive for his defense. Either he needs to make his stand here now, or he needs to really rethink his strategy. But one of those things should have been making that catapult really work for him, and it's not. As we see now, he has had a slight skirmish phase with the Shadow Guard that are on the walls, who are firing and getting a much better arc than they are on the inside. He is going to withdraw his units a little bit out of range. I guess he's going to rest them up and then send them in when he gets a better opportunity. But the more he pushes forward now, the more likely it is he's going to go up and take out those archers on the walls, and then he'll be able to put his own up there if he should choose so. I'm just going to force forward it a little bit now while we try and work our way through this more choke pointy section. I don't think it's going to last too long. I think that they will probably push through relatively quickly as we just zoom in to have a look. And you can see here that the Dinadine Wardens are now forcing their way in, battling against what's left of the Temple Guard, which do seem to be struggling. And they are up against the battle-ready Dinadine, so I'm not too surprised that they're struggling there. They are a very elite force by Arnor, and they are also having difficulties on this side from the looks of it. The remainder of the Uruk starting to drop now relatively quickly. There's just not enough of them, and they're being forced back by the overwhelming numbers of Arnor. Balance of power still relatively much the same in terms of kills. The attackers are right where they want to be, which is having much less of their own dead by this point than what the defenders have. I do feel like you've got to bear in mind that a lot of them that have died already so far are Orc banned, and so not necessarily really worth their percentage points. However, from Monkey's point of view, this is looking pretty good for him. He's really making it so that he's making Mordor work for it, and he's made it through the first choke points without significant losses, as he is now sending his battle-ready Dinadine up onto the walls, and I think that will be the silenced and the end of the Shadow Guard. You can see here the sheer death of the Orcs that have been caused. Really, I think he's come off relatively well from this engagement, and he's already made himself through here. Again, another opportunity to where he can fire his catapult. He's got so few of his own units here. He can really take them out. He's going to send in now his Uruk-hai to try and slow down these forces. If he's going to do that, I'd like to. He's hopefully going to send some his Chosen or his Halberds to support it. These Uruk-hai may not last long by themselves otherwise, as we start moving ourselves back down to normal speed now. Battle-ready Dinadine have now engaged with the Númenóreans, who have all drawn their swords, which makes me think that they are probably not in guard mode. For those who are watching, guard mode can be your saviour. If you put certain units in guard mode, like archers, they will traditionally continue to fire if they aren't actually actively being engaged in melee, but these guys have all pulled their swords out, so they must not be in that formation. Generally, I think the only unit that you wouldn't put in guard mode are going to be two-handed units or really shot-heavy units, just because you really want them to push through and get in there. He is leaving his Uruk-hai by themselves. Again, I don't know whether it's just to make it so that they are a bit of a blob and he will get that catapult firing. But it does look like he is now winching up his catapult. So let's position ourselves to see what it's like from their point of view as we wait to see the first shots come off. He's a little bit far back though, so we'll see how it goes. There it is, the first shot comes in, and he kills his own units. That's very unfortunate, as you can see, after all that weight. As you can see that the men-at-arms now start swarming in. They're going to engage the Morgul Chosen in melee relatively soon, this big long snake. Another possible good target for the catapult as another shot comes flying in. Doesn't hit the target, doesn't hit the markers, another two come in. Oh, and he takes out one of his own but he does cause a unit of 62 spearmen to rout. That's what he needs if he's going to win this battle. He really needs to get those routing, and those pikemen are now going to flee off the battlefield. I don't think they're going to be coming back, and he really needed war like that. If he could get some more shots in, he could win this battle a lot quicker. As now the Mordor Chosen, who are engaged with the men-at-arms, aren't confident about their victory, probably just from the sheer numbers. That is unfortunate. I think he was hoping they would hold the line a little bit longer. The problem is now for Mordor is he doesn't have any of his archers left. Because they're up here and they're about to get mopped up, he has nothing in terms of a skirmish line he can really use to fire over the heads of his own units, whereas Arnor has almost the entirety of his continuing to remain. As his catapult has now stopped firing again. Now, again, he needs to possibly consider moving these forward. He's got strong lines. Like, the Mordor Chosen should hold, or worst case scenario, he could push up his shield guard a little bit closer into this gap here, and then he could have rolled up his catapult behind it and start firing over. Because this is begging for some fiery balls of death, especially after he committed his Urlach High, who are slowly but surely being ruined here. I mean, such a valuable unit that can kill hundreds if done well. It's just going to get swamped by pikemen now, I think, and Dunedain Wardens, which is a real sad shame and an end to this force. You can see now that Monkey is now firing over the wall of the Black Gate into the opponents as he starts bringing more of his units forward. I think he probably might as well move his Steel Bowmen inside the battlefield, although catapult shots are now starting to come in, but drips and drabs in terms of what they're hitting. As more units start heading up onto the Black Gate just to mop up the last of the Shadow Guard. He has now made a hole here and over the sides here. It's possible what he's going to do is come through and maybe get some rear charges on, try and get round the flank, try and break these units. If he does do that, then I would definitely want to consider seeing catapults coming in, just because the sheer numbers that you could kill based against what you could possibly risk hitting with friendly fire. Again, I feel like Mordor's being a little bit passive, and I don't think that this catapult's going to get the greatest of hits from being so far back. He wants to try and aim for here. I know he lost his Urlach High in one shot, but since then more and more forces have been piled into there, and even if it overshoots, there's the possibility of hitting the pikemen behind. And I think these are possibly the pikemen that broke before have now returned to the battle, and if that is the case, then that's a real shame. Yeah, it might well be, actually. Oh, wait. Nah, I think it probably is. Oh, that's unfortunate. So, wasn't able to see them off the battlefield. Again, I mean, Arnor is starting to get exhausted. They are starting to get tired. They have been marching and fighting for some time, and they've had to, run a long distance, and exhaustion can be a winner for people. But I just think that actually what's going to happen is if he brings through his Steel Bowmen and targets Sauron's Will, which again are susceptible to ranged fire as they chant away with their two-handed weapons, this defensive unit here can get destroyed before it even starts. As we start looking now into the front battle line. Oh goodness, they're facing the wrong way. No wonder they're struggling. They're having real issues here because they've got their backs faced. So they're in a formation here, probably a shield wall formation, but they're not looking in the right direction. I don't know if they're bugged or whether it's just a problem, but that's going to really cause problems for them. Okay, fine if they try and flank round and attack from behind, but it's not putting them in the best position to fight. No wonder they are struggling against men-at-arms. They're just not set up properly. And the halberds are going to fall. They're a cheaper unit, and they're just going to get trounced here. I think they're probably going to break soon. There's more archer fire is coming over, and I think he's going to push straight probably on into Sauron's Will, who at least are facing the right direction, alongside this group of Mordor Chosen, who hopefully will hold formation for a little bit longer. Again, there is the opportunity here to flank round on both sides, which Arnor could use to their advantage. That's the kind of shots he needs to consider. Just over a little bit high. If it was slightly lower down, he could have got a much better shot. Really killed some useful units. As it stands, though, he unfortunately killed a good number of his own. And again, it's partly because the distance he's firing at is so far away that the chance of being able to get good hits is obviously diminished because the accuracy is going to be difficult. Although catapults are more accurate than, say, the trebuchet, it's still going to work a little bit against him. But this is the blob he wants to focus on more so from the looks of it. This is where the main pressure from Arnor is going to be coming from. I'm just going to see what else he's got outside to bring through. He's bringing through his archers now, his bodyguard, as his battle-ready Dynadine finish off the last of these archers here. I half wonder if he could have maybe saved some of these guys by running them out before. When he saw the battle-ready Dynadine coming up on one side, he probably still had time to get them out. Oh, and another shot comes in. I do fear that's probably also more friendly fire than not. And it is unfortunate. Maybe something like this shot now is probably going to be better for him, shooting into the ranks of these Mordor chosen. But he is starting to get broken about now. It looks like he charged out to meet this force, and it's really started to leave gaps open. He's going to start getting to the point now where all he's got is his final elites, which are strong units, but it's a very long width for him to fight along. For all of his, the fact that he's had all these choke points to battle, he's probably choosing the largest width for him to sort of make his final stand, and I think that's going to work against him. I'm just going to again move to double speed while we wait to see Arnor continue to do their push through as the Sauron's will are getting mopped up, and Morgul's chosen very much the same when they're fighting against the Dynadine dismounted knights. He is starting to get that catapult working, but it just doesn't seem to be getting the shots he needs. Have they faced the wrong way again? I don't know again if this is a bug or what, but they seem to keep trying to face in the wrong direction. I don't know entirely what's going on there, but it's really not going to help his positioning, and therefore getting hit in the back isn't going to help them in terms of their formation. Another shot's coming in. They're going over the top. I don't know if he's going for these rangers, but I think his better shot will probably be going for these men-at-arms while he's got some Morgul chosen fighting to the left and in the centre. And that's the kind of hits he needs. That's more like it. He wants more shots like that. That's where he's going to get the value. There's now a constant tirade, I think, of archer fire is going to start coming in. He needs to continue to hold there as long as possible. I'd be tempted to suggest, actually, what he needs to do is move his shield guard forward and try and reform here now that he's started to find the range on his catapult. But it's not bad that he's holding here. At least if they start coming towards him, maybe he can move forward his catapult and get some point blank shots in, since he doesn't have to push it very far. But it won't be long now before Arnor is banging at his gates. And actually, if I was Arnor, I'd savour the time. I'd allow my units to rest up a bit and use the fact that I know that he can't respond to my archers by just sitting there and peppering down his units. As another shot comes in, gets about 4 or 5, but he's already getting good shots. He's going for the right target as well. These Temple Inquisitors are not going to have a shield wall formation. They're not even going to have a shield, and they're the best ones for the archer fires, and I don't blame him. That's the target I'd go for. The shield guard would be able to last for some time against skirmish fire. The other advantage he's got is he can continue to fire into these guys constantly while he sends his infantry in against these two. But Mordor is breaking formation. He is going to try and do a counter charge into Arnor. He's not going to wait for them to come to him. They are exhausted as they start moving forward. And actually all that's happened is that Monkey has changed his archers to shoot now into the bodyguard, and I don't blame him as the catapult comes in. Just not hitting the target he wanted to, taking out a couple, but it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. I think what he want to do is bring that catapult forward and start firing. He does risk, however, because of that charge out he's done and he's broken his formation, he's left gaps here and here again, and Arnor still has more units, I think. If we just look at the balance of power, which is still the same, you can see here that the 81% of Mordor is dead now to the 60% of the allies. He just doesn't have enough forces to defend this strip, as much as they are high quality, as much as the balance of power still thinks that they're even. He just can't hold them at bay, and they're going to go round and they're going to take out this catapult, or at least stop it from firing, and he really needs this catapult crew to get kills. This is the only way he's going to win it now, I think. And you can see he's actually doing just that. Dismounted Dynadine Knights making their way around the hillside, and I'm sure that they're going to beeline to the catapult. Yeah, here they come. As arrows continue to fire in against the bodyguard, and the Nazgul are just waiting. He may want to try and mix in his Nazgul with his shield guard here, just to try and make the most of the fact that they don't work very well just as an isolated unit, same as the Uruk-hai. He wants to send them in with multiple forces. And he wants to try and form himself up maybe slightly better with his shield guard, as they're a little bit out of formation there, a little bit bulked up, and as he tries to charge through now, moving in to try and flank out the pikemen at the back. They have been able to silence the catapult now, and I'm not too surprised. I think maybe Ironside needed to see that coming a little bit sooner, and now his bodyguard are caught up. But even though his bodyguard will probably win this battle against the knights, he may lose most of his trolls or all of his trolls in the battle, and he needs to engage these Nazgul. These guys aren't doing anything. Get them in there and have them finish off these knights. Right now, he's just allowing these guys to hold up this catapult, and the shots the catapult doesn't fire, the shots the catapult doesn't get to kill. As you can see now, his Temple Inquisitors are feeling relatively happy, relatively comfortable. They're getting into the swing of things. But a slightly different story, I think, over here. But having said that, the shield guard they are holding formation. They are in shield wall, they'll last for some time. And if he can clear out these guys from the side here with his bodyguard, he might be able to reposition his catapult and fire along the line here, trying to kill some of the guys here, push through on any overshots into these secondary forces. As we see the steel bowmen reforming themselves. What I would say about the trolls, for the catapult trolls, they are nothing like Uruk-hai. They're not particularly strong. You can see they're already starting to fall. There was a much larger unit. You can see just their corpses there. I think now that the bodyguard have engaged, if I was Ironside, I'd be looking to draw these trolls away. Even tempted to get them back on the catapult to get that back up and operational again. I still think these Nazgul could easily be engaged into there without massive risk. I don't think his general's units in the Nazgul. I think they're probably in the bodyguard, and I think he could have come over and cleared these out quicker. And the faster he does that, the faster his catapult will fire again. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't have many shots left. He has fired quite a few by now, but something tells me he still has some. You see now his lines are starting to thin here, taking on Temple Inquisitors, and they are still feeling relatively confident in this fight. And we are having some wavering now coming through from the battle-ready Dynadine. If you can make those guys break, that'll be fantastic and really good for him. These Shadow Guards still fighting and duking it out with the pikemen. I'm not quite sure why he's layered himself so thickly there. I don't think Arnor's going to push through. If anything, he wants to probably consider wrapping around, especially with pikemen. He could really make that flank work in his favour. As the Nazgul now charge in to reinforce the Inquisitors, which I think is probably the right decision, although slightly too late to commit them. These trolls really need to get out of this fight. There's no point keeping them in there, in my opinion. I think he just risks losing his crew when the bodyguard are seemingly comfortably winning this fight. As we can see now that the bodyguard are pushing through, he's starting to commit more and more of his skirmish units into melee, although admittedly steel bowmen, they're not really a skirmish unit as much as they're an everything unit. And the Dynadine bodyguard, which is probably his general's unit, they're just as powerful really as a steel bow unit in melee, wielding these giant axes you can see here. And they're going to start working their way through the shield guard, hitting their flank. And they'll probably be relatively effective at doing so, as the shield guard now starting to feel a little less eager about the situation, and they're all starting to feel a little bit unhappy about what they're fighting against. And over on this side, the Inquisitors still seem confident, but I don't know how confident they'll be when these battle-ready Dynadine come around to hit them in the flank. These are the guys probably freed up who were up on the walls before, killing the remainders of his skirmish force. Again, opportunity here to get on these catapults and shoot these battle-ready Dynadine in the back, but right now he's losing his trolls. How many's he even got left now? 3 trollmen left. He's got to get him out of there if he wants to use his catapult. Again, it's possible. I could be wrong. Maybe he doesn't have any ammunition left, but I'd be surprised if that was the case. I think right now it'd be better to save that crew, because I don't think he needs to commit them here and start firing again. As we come in to see that the surrounded Temple Inquisitors, I mean, they're now starting to change their mind about their chances, and I don't blame them. It's going to become more difficult. The only chance it's got maybe if the Nazgul can finish off some of these pikemen and wardens, but I think they'll probably hold out relatively well, at least long enough for the battle-ready Dunedain to win their fight as he charges over what's left of his bodyguard and his trolls. So he isn't sending his trolls back to his catapult. And he is going to get a flanking charge onto the battle-ready Dunedain, although he stopped slightly. There we go. The charge seems to have got halted slightly, which is a shame. I think he really needs to get a good charge bonus off there to make the most of the situation. But hopefully these will now come to the support and the aid of his Inquisitors, and maybe they can try and turn it around. They are starting to feel a little bit happier about their situation to hold on, as the balance of power still remains relatively even. As you can see now that they are starting to bring back that kill ratio with 80 to 90%. So it's 10% in it as we continue forward. The archers still firing in now as we start seeing, like I said, more of the archer units being committed in. But there's a rear flank coming in from the bodyguards into the shield guard. That's really unfortunate. He needed these shield guards to really hold out, I think. I think that these guys were really holding back the tidal wave, and this rear flank could mean the end of that, and that'll be a real problem, I think, going forward. I think that these guys will then get sort of wiped out. He is firing onto his own units, I don't blame him. From his point of view, I think the bulk of his army still remains here, and actually Mordor's army remains here. And in fairness, if he does get some friendly fire, there's not a great deal here. 16 battle-ready Dunedain who are probably going to waver and break soon anyway. And some depleted pike units. I think it's probably the right choice that he's made firing into that area. My money's still on Arnor at this stage. I think that he's going to probably just push through the remainder here and then come over to finish off the rest of Mordor. As we see, yeah, so his units are starting to rout here, which is again even more of a reason for his rangers to fire into this blob, take out as many of them as they can. You can see the shots starting to rain over from the 47 remaining rangers. These guys need to come in and join this battle here. They need to try and flank around this bodyguard, maybe try and get a general kill, but certainly they want to try and not be just standing there taking this archer fire. Although having said that, Arnor have defeated what it looks to be the last of the shield guard, and they now are moving over as the mass sort of force of Arnor start charging in. Looks like they're breaking up themselves slightly. He's mounted, so the Dunedain bodyguard going for seemingly the capture point as Mordor again charge forward to meet Arnor. You can't falter his courage as he goes charging in, but in the same time he is now going to start losing his town centre, so he's now with two options. Either he sends something back to fight the bodyguard, thus weakening his force that are fighting up here against the main blob, or he allows him to take the zone. Alternatively, he removes everything back to face him, and then he's going to open up his rear to get attacked. I think he's kind of running out of options now. I think he's going to get swapped around. He does try and send back some of his bodyguard, which is the majority of his force back here to try and fight these Dunedain bodyguard. But they're coming through in dribs and drabs, and I think they're probably the largest unit he's got is the bodyguard. Now they have stopped the timer, but I don't know for how long. As they come back in sort of ones and twos, I think they may get cut down. Whereas on the other side, I think all that's going to be left here is a couple of Inquisitors, 17 of them, and the Nazgul. I think I probably would have done this the other way round. I'd have left the bodyguard here and had the Nazgul and the Inquisitors come back here. But we'll see how it pays off for him. It does mean, oh, he has actually sent his Nazgul to charge and go for the Rangers, which may not be a bad choice. They will cut through these guys relatively well, and they should win the battle. But can they kill these guys quick enough before his 17 Inquisitors fall? Balance of power now beginning to start shifting away from Mordor in favour of Arnor. As you see, the percentage is still at about 10%, but the sheer loss of life, I think, is now causing the problems that we're seeing faced. And every one of those Nazgul are going to be a significant proportion of the value of the army remaining, even if not the percentage value. So the actual cost of them will mean that this balance of power starts sort of shifting over as the timer starts again, because his bodyguard of 23 have now routed. If he's lucky, they might go to the town centre and they maybe, if it's possible, get their morale back, but I don't think it will help them much, as they did get cut down there then to 7 as they gave up and stopped fighting and got finished off. I think his only force really remaining are the Nazgul further ahead. We'll just see if we can see the last stand now of the Inquisitors, who are trying to make a run for it. I'm not quite sure where. As more and more of Arnor's forces move in now to the capture location. Oh, 2 bodyguard came back with their infinite morale. Let's see them charge in, taking them on head first. I don't think he's going to last very long. But he's putting up a good fight, that's what matters. And there he goes, that's the last of those guys, I think. So remaining here, these guys are all cheering. I think that's the end of the Inquisitors. I think there's just the one. Oh, there's about 4 left, so not many. And in regards to Nazgul, he is having to run these guys back. So the Nazgul are going to have to, not only do they have to run into Arrowfire, they're now having to run back from Arrowfire to try and get back to the town centre, where it will be a shame if this is a town centre victory rather than an annihilation victory. But at this stage, what really does Mordor have? I mean, ultimately, it is basically an annihilation. As you see here, 78% of Mordor have now perished in this battle so far. This is really just mopping it up, and I'm going to move us up to time 2 speed to see the end of this. I'd just like to thank both players for a great battle. Thank you for submitting the replay. What I would say is, everyone else has the replays they would like to have commentary, they would like to see us do, please feel free to submit it. The email address should be in the description below. Alongside that, please feel free to join our Discord if you would like to find games in the community and information about the upcoming release of the patch of 0.9. And lastly, if you really enjoy everything we do and you want to support the channel, please consider supporting our Patreon. Details will be below. Otherwise, we'll just watch the final stand of the Nazgul, although I have a feeling that the Nazgul will survive longer than the town centre will. You know what, I changed my mind, it's taking too long. Let's just speed it up. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. I do hope that for those watching on YouTube, this is slightly better for everybody. It is a test of a new software. Fingers crossed it pays off. We will continue to make improvements as and when we can to your viewing experience. Thank you, everybody. I've been Cannon Fodder, you've been you. If we just look at the kills here, you can see that Mordor did sort of submit about an army about 500 units more, but they just weren't able to get the kills in the end that they needed to do so. Again, I think it's partly because that catapult really probably didn't get its worth in the end. And we're just looking here to see where the kills came from for Monkey. You can see that 192 from his Dunedain Knights and 172, so really good kills from there. Battle Ready Dunedain 143. And really good kills for the pikemen, actually. 198. You don't normally see that from a pike unit, especially when they're having to push through. And his men-at-arms did relatively well as well, especially his Arnor men-at-arms. But please remember that the Arnor men-at-arms went up against Orc Band, 3 units of it, as well as cheaper halberds. So you'd expect to see kills of that ratio. Once again, thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out.